Hey Akaash, all of our partners are upset. They're saying Mark Carney's endangering orcas. What's going on?
Well, the Prime Minister recently announced a discussion paper. The objective is to accelerate the speed of environmental reviews, but it's created anxiety not just across Canada, but indeed across the world. In effect, the Prime Minister wants businesses to be able to get faster environmental reviews, and I think everyone would agree with that. Businesses deserve and Canadians need for them to be able to get prompt and efficient responses when they have industrial proposals. The problem is what the Prime Minister is proposing is to accelerate the environmental review, not by reducing government inefficiency and duplication, but by lowering public standards. One of the biggest concerns we have is that the proposals only have a consultation period of 30 days. And these are massive changes to the entire environmental architecture of our country. It is wildly insufficient for people to think deeply about the ramifications, to offer the government intelligent support in its objectives. And really, it does feel like they've made up their mind about what they're going to do, and that this is cosmetic. In terms of what's actually in the proposals, one of the most concerning parts is their plans to create what they're calling federal economic zones. These are areas where established environmental protections simply will not apply. And companies who want to create industrial projects will begin with a presumption that those projects are approved even before the environmental review is started. It is, in effect, creating areas of total environmental lawlessness in our country. And that is not good for our economy, and it's certainly not good for species at risk. In other words, right now, if you have a business plan, and one of the consequences of that plan is that it's going to wipe out an entire species, we don't let you proceed with it. But now ministers could allow you to proceed with it. And it would be at the personal discretion of ministers or cabinet collectively without parliamentary review. Again, that's not good for our economy. It's not good for our environment, not good for our democracy. The tests also don't make a distinction between Canadian businesses and foreign businesses. So it would be possible, for example, not only to trade away nature for profit, but to trade away Canadian nature for the profit of American hedge funds and Chinese corporations, state-backed corporations. It would create a situation where all the profits go abroad and all the costs and harms remain in Canada. We want to see our businesses prosper for themselves and for us. And if you can't pay the rent, nothing else matters. But these proposals, there's a real risk that what's going to happen is that it might make a small number of people very wealthy today. It will impoverish us all in the long term, and it will destroy our country's natural environment. And you can't build an economy by destroying your country.
So, what's Nature Canada doing now?
Everything we can. We've met with MPs, with ministers, including the Office of the Minister for the Environment, to make our concerns clear. Cabinet ministers are bound by collective responsibility. And so whatever they might think about legislation or proposals, they have to stand together. That's the nature of our democracy. But it's clear from our conversations with ministers that this has taken them almost as much by surprise as it has taken us. We are working with them, and we've raised our concerns with Minister Cruzen, for example, the Minister for the Environment, about the perils embedded in these proposals. It was obvious from those conversations that many of the concerns that we have raised were also new concerns for them. So, for example, these federal economic zones, one of the questions that we asked them is, what's to stop a future government from declaring the entire country to be a special economic zone with no environmental protections anywhere? And their response was, you should probably say something about that. We are saying something about that. But really, I think this will be down to individual MPs to reflect the concerns of Canadians. We have more meetings coming up with former ministers for the environment, with the Conservative caucus, with the leadership of the NDP, because this is a matter that goes beyond any kind of partisan consideration. It strikes at the heart of the national interest. I would like to believe that once the Prime Minister and his advisors are fully seized of the consequences of what they are doing, that they will do the right thing. I think what's going on right now is that with the anxiety we all feel about the Canada-US trade war, about the future of our economy, the PMO has fallen victim to politicians' logical fallacy. We have to do something. This is something. Therefore, we have to do it. We have to do the right thing. And this is not the right thing.
So what should we do instead?
There are many other options, and they're far better options. We think that one of the key is that Canada needs to diversify and increase our exports to countries and to jurisdictions that share our environmental values. Canada and the European Union have a free trade agreement, the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. It contains a provision, Chapter 24, which talks about the necessity for both Canada and the EU to protect nature and the environment, and not to lower their environmental standards to gain unfair trade advantages over one another. We think that that is the key to not only expanding trade, but expanding trade in a way that is sustainable, that ensures that there's prosperity for Canadians today and tomorrow. We are working very hard with the Minister of the Environment, with the governments of the European Union in its many parts, to facilitate expansions of trade under Chapter 24. In the end, the reason why we need greater prosperity is so that Canadians have greater quality of life. And if we purchase wealth for the few at the expense of nature for the many, then we all have lower qualities of life. I have great regard for the role of MPs. I think that MPs are the unsung heroes of our political system. And when we think about politics, we often think about people in the executive, the Prime Minister, the members of the Cabinet, perhaps even senior public servants. But really, the foundation of our democracy is Parliament. We look to MPs to be the shield of democracy, to stand between our leaders and levers of power. This is one of those times where MPs have to stand up and be counted. No reasonable person could look at what's being proposed now and think that it serves the public interest. But I can understand that MPs are reluctant to stand up to the party leadership, especially in our political system, which concentrates so much power into the hands of so few people. And in the end, if the government does go down this very dark path, it will be a reckoning, not just for Canadians and for nature and for the economy, but politically as well. Canadians are not the fools that some political actors take us for. They understand that an economy built on destroying nature is not an economy that is being built for them, and they will respond accordingly. I hope that MPs will realize that it is not just their responsibility to Canadians, it's their responsibility to their party leaders to warn them when they are about to step off the edge of a cliff. These proposals take our whole country off the edge of a cliff, and we look to our MPs to raise their hands and prevent the march into the abyss.